Okay, friends. Good morning, everybody, once again. Today I like to start the talk on Kamma, which is very profound and complicated subject. It is one of the five universal laws. They are called niyama, laws. They are Kamma niyama, Dhamma niyama, Chitta niyama, Utu niyama, and Kamma, Dhamma, Chitta, Utu, and Chitta niyama. Chitta niyama. So, Chitta niyama is the way how our mind operates. It has its own way of operating. That is what is called Chitta niyama. Utu niyama is seasonal changes. They happen due to other conditions in the globe, in the universe. No one person or any group of people or country have any power to control it, Utu niyama. Then Bija niyama is the law of biology, and they have their own way of operating. They also depend on various other factors, and they have their own way, that law. Then Dhamma niyama is the way how the truth, Dhamma, works. For instance, dependent origination is Dhamma niyama. Then the way how impermanence is also called Dhamma niyama. Nobody has any control over impermanence, whether the Buddhas come into existence or not. The impermanence is impermanent. It is there. Like dependent origination, whether the Buddhas come into existence or not, this causally related phenomena is there all the time. Then the last is Kamma niyama. Kamma niyama also is another law that operates on its own. So these are the five types of niyamas. Now, the least understood and most misunderstood subject is Kamma niyama. For instance, when something goes wrong, some calamity or death or sickness, losing jobs, separations from loved ones, and have to live with unloved ones, and so on and so forth. When all these things happen, a lot of unhappy situations arise in life. Many people who, especially Buddhist people who believe in Kamma, when something wrong goes in life, they always say, they sigh and say, what to do, that is my Kamma. When everything goes well, they have a good job, good relationship, good health, good food, good job, a good house, good environment, good school, good children, and good parents. And all these things happen, very going on, everything very smoothly. Then they said, thank God, I am okay. So all the good things they attribute to God, all the bad things they attribute to Kamma. That is another misunderstanding of Kamma. And very seldom do we hear somebody says that both good and evil that I experience is Kamma. Also, different kind of Kamma is there. Some all depends on the way how our Dhamma, how we handle our Dhamma, Chitta Niyama, Uttu Niyama, and Bija Niyama. How we handle all this can cause us to do numerous kammas. The kamma is, we try to explain in terms of dependent origination, because kamma is a part of dependent origination. I also mentioned, somebody even asked me, what is the difference between Saṅkhāra and Kamma? Saṅkhāra is part of dependent origination, a step that explain dependent origination. And Saṅkhāra, Kamma also is another kind of Saṅkhāra. So therefore, Saṅkhāra has a wider meaning, and Kamma in a way has limited meaning. For instance, everything is not Kamma, but everything is Saṅkhāra. Everything is not Kamma, but everything is Saṅkhāra. And therefore, the major difference between Saṅkhāra and Kamma, Saṅkhāra is sort of as a narrow meaning. So Kamma has narrow meaning, and Saṅkhāra has wider meaning, and some Saṅkhāras are not Kamma. But for instance, all inanimate objects in the universe also are Saṅkhāras, because they came into existence through causes and conditions. And but all of them, all these inanimate things are not Kamma. For instance, trees, rocks, tables, houses that we make, and all these are not Kamma. But they all are Saṅkhāras, because the word Saṅkhāra has a very, very wide sort of encompassing everything in the universe. Kamma doesn't have that, and therefore Saṅkhāra has stronger, or if we say it is the macrocosmic implication is there, but Kamma is minor, microscopic, or macroscopic implication. So therefore, this is the big difference between these two. Saṅkhāra include everything. Kamma is limited to certain mental activities. For all the Saṅkhāras, the mental activities are not necessary, but all Kammas, mental activities are necessary, because it is the thought that is Vachi Saṅkhāra turn into Kamma. Chitta Saṅkhāra, Sanya Vedana, perceptions and feelings themselves are not Kamma. They may be the results of Kamma, but the term Kamma is used for Vachi Saṅkhāra, Vitakka Vichara, because we think and deliberate to do Kamma. If that segment, that factor, that aspect is absent, actions will not become Kamma. And therefore Kamma has more conditions and limited meaning. Saṅkhāra doesn't have any condition except that they are conditioned by other conditioners. And with this, I would like to start our morning meditation session. After the meditation, I will talk more about this subject. Now let us begin our metta practice. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without action, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Friends, we repeat the same instructions every day. The purpose of repetition is for us to remind ourselves how much mindfulness and metta we have to practice to help those who are suffering by direct impact of virus, and some losing their loved ones, and some losing various things, and nobody has gained anything from this virus. They all lost and losing. We don't know how long we are going to lose so many living beings, human beings. And therefore our solace comes from the practice of metta, generosity, compassion, and our own determination to practice mindfulness. We have to be mindful of all this happening around us to share our metta. With this metta thought in mind, let us also wish, while we are meditating, let others' pain reduce, suffering reduce, just as we gain peace, comfort from our meditation, let them also have peace, comfort in their own minds to overcome their pain and suffering. Now we go into the next segment, step of our practice. That is, let us breathe mindfully, paying undivided attention without verbalizing, conceptualizing the breath. And also pay attention to breath, noticing expanding and contracting of our lower abdomen, chest area, and nasal area to when we breathe in and out, we feel our breath flowing into lungs through our nostrils. So we will feel that, and as we feel, we notice the feeling of inhaling, feeling of exhaling, and perception of inhaling, perception of exhaling, and then we just notice our attention that we pay to our breath and our consciousness. All these are arising along with inhaling, passing away with exhaling, and they change. And then as we notice the change, there is nothing to excite. They all take place very normally, naturally. Then the body becomes relaxed. There is no agitation, excitement in any of these experiences. They're really happening naturally. Then the breath becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. The mind becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. With that state, there arise awareness of letting go of all these feeling, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness as they appear and disappear. When they appear, we become aware of it. When they disappear, we become aware of that. And then our desire or greed or clinging to anything will slowly subside. Then the thought of letting go, feeling of letting go takes root in our mind. Then real metta arises as hatred or anger as hindrances fade away. That is replaced by our metta. Then our thought or unfriendly, cruel thought will disappear. It will be replaced by compassion. And then joy arises, happiness arises, concentration arises. When concentration arises, that is not a word or concept, but it is just an awareness of getting mind focused, united with the breathing, and then we begin to be aware of deeper changes, minute changes, and entire body, feeling, perception, and consciousness going through these changes, and we just the vibration, pulsation in our body, mind, feeling, and we breathe or pulsate to the rhythm of the universal rhythm, changing, expanding, contracting, pulsating, vibrating, never ending. And that even makes us more calm and peaceful. There is nothing very special in all this. They happen very naturally. With this awareness, we continue our practice. Dukkha pattaca nidukkha maya pattaca nibbaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. This is the most appropriate wish at this time, since so many people are in suffering, so many are in fear, so many people are in sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. And we want to wish all of them to be free from suffering, fear, and despair. We all want to wish all these people suffering from this virus and all their relatives, friends who lose their loved ones, and those who are supporting them in spite of their wonderful, noble wish and intention to see these people recover, they also lose them. Wish is very strong, important factor, but at the same time, this virus is stronger than that. So when we collectively, all together, make this wish, we can defeat this virus. And I want to wish once again, may all these beings be free from this virus, pain and suffering, and their relatives, friends, and so on, and return to their normal life and continue living in good health for a long time. Friends, let me continue this talk on Metta, on Kamma. Sometimes people have various notion of Kamma. Somebody asked the Buddha whether Kamma is committed by oneself or somebody else or both together, and or it happens without any cause, fortuitously, without any causes and conditions. Buddha said, no, it is not done by oneself, not by others, not happen without any causes and conditions, not both of them together, but depending on factors involved in our thought, chetana, is a factor of dependent origination. So he taught the middle path of Kamma. Middle path is in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and the most famous one is Noble Eightfold Path. The other middle path that is not so popular and not too many people think about is the dependent origination. Dependent origination is also called the middle path. Without veering to one side or the other, Buddha explained Kamma in terms of dependent origination. And therefore, there is also another wrong view, that is, everything is due to Kamma or nothing is due to Kamma. If we believe that everything is due to Kamma, then we are fatalistic. If we believe that nothing is due to Kamma, we are materialistic and without any causes and conditions. It just happened. That is also not correct. Therefore, the Buddha explained the Kamma in terms of dependent origination. Then that is why he mentioned in several places that thinking, thought, or volition makes Kamma. And then one might ask, don't we think deliberately, make volition deliberately? Yes, we do. But behind that is ignorance. We don't know that any thought, any intention also can have ignorance as a factor. Therefore, we have to define the Kamma in terms of within Buddhist doctrine and teaching, Buddha's teaching. And this is how we define it. Any thought, word, or deed committed intentionally by someone whose mind is not free from greed, hatred, and delusion is Kamma. This also implies the cause and effect itself is not Kamma. Like physics. In physics, you learn that every action has reaction. If every action has reaction, there is no escape from Kamma. There is no hope, there is no liberation. And therefore, that definition applies only to material or physics or physical things. But the Kamma is far beyond that. And therefore, what makes action a Kamma to produce karmic results is thought, thinking. In the physics, there is no thinking, no thought. It is just action and it is respective reaction. In Kamma, there is thought involved. So that is why the Buddha said, Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. I call Kamma, a thought is Kamma, because we have to think to do a Kamma, to say something or to do something as living being with mentality and materiality plus consciousness. Since we have all these things, then we think of saying something and doing something. And therefore, the Kamma involves thinking. In this definition that I gave earlier, any thought, word or deed committed intentionally. I use the word intentionally, and we must emphasize that. Committed intentionally, also by someone whose mind is not free from greed, hatred and delusion. There are two important factors here. One is the mind has intention. The other is it has greed, hatred and delusion. And therefore, one who is free from greed, hatred and delusion, one who is uh, free from ignorance, although he has intention, his thought, word, deeds is not Kamma. For instance, when you want to meditate, it's a very good Kamma. You have a thought, you use the body, mind, your consciousness, your perception, all geared towards cleansing your mind, to be liberated from suffering, to generate metta, loving friendliness, compassion, appreciative joy, saddha, faith, and wisdom, making effort to overcome unwholesome mental state. All this you do with intention. And if this intention is not affected or influenced by greed, hatred and delusion, your intention produce wholesome results. And however, if the mind is not totally free from greed and ignorance, your wholesome intentional thought, word, deeds produce results and you keep lingering in samsara, experiencing pleasure, joy, happiness and some suffering. And therefore, those who commit wholesome thoughts, words, deeds, without greed, hatred and delusion, such as the Buddhas, Arahants, enlightened beings, their thoughts, words, deeds, though they have intention, are not considered to be kammas, because the mind is totally free from greed, hatred, and delusion. When we have greed, hatred, and delusion, we have some ulterior motive. When enlightened persons does that, arahant, monks, nuns, lay person, then they don't have any ulterior motive, and therefore what they do is just mere actions, not producing results. It is just like you have a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, and if there is uh, other factors, requirements for it to grow, that seed will grow and produce results if the seed has been a good one and a good condition. But if you take that seed, even though it is in a very good condition, it can easily germinate, sprout, and produce results. But if you take that seed and burn it and reduce to ashes and thrown into a river or ocean, that seed will never produce result. Similarly, when somebody's mind is totally free from greed, hatred, and delusion, that person's thoughts, very good thoughts, wholesome thoughts, powerful thoughts, words, very wonderful words, and deeds, very noble deeds, it has the greatest potential, power, and yet it will, those thoughts, words, and deeds will not produce result. Why is that? They don't have greed and ignorance in their mind. They even don't call sattva in an ordinary sense. Sattva in Sanskrit, sattva is in Pali, meaning living being. The Buddhas and Arahants are not being in that sense, in the sense of sattva. Sattva in Pali, in Samyutta Nikaya, is defined by the Buddha himself as satto, asatto to satto. Being who clings to something is called satta. What do all people, living beings cling to? They all cling to their body, feeling, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. These are the things that they cling. Therefore, they are called satta. The Buddhas and Arahants are called asatta. There is a statement in Dhammapada in Brahmana Vagga, chapter 26, where Buddha said, Asattam sugatang buddhang tamahang brahmi brahmanam. Asatta, the Buddha is asatta. I call him a holy one. Although the Buddha had the body, he had feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness. He and Arahant also would not cling to any of them. Therefore, they are not sattas, nor they do commit kammas. This we have to remember in the first place. Therefore, in my definition of kamma, the one the thoughts, words, deeds committed intentionally by one who has greed, hatred, and delusion is Kamma. Let me repeat once again for you to remember. Any thought, word, deed committed intentionally by someone who has greed, hatred, and delusion is called Kamma. Any thought, word, deed committed intentionally without greed, hatred, and delusion is not called Kamma. We have to remember this definition. Therefore, that is the definition. And also I mentioned the Kamma is neither committed by oneself, nor another person, not both of them, not it happened automatically without any reason, but it is caused by causes and effect, committed by causes and conditions. When we talk about causes and conditions, sometimes there has been in traditional beliefs that causes are one group, conditions are another group, or causes are one thing, conditions are another. But in Pali, hetu pachaya, hetu pachaya. But in sutras, Buddha's discourses, Buddha used these as synonyms. Ko hetu ko pachayo. In various places, in Chulakamari Bhanga Sutta and other places, people ask the Buddha in Janusoni Sutta and so forth, ask the Buddha, what is the cause and conditions for differences in living beings? In this place, causes and conditions are used as synonyms, not two different things. And therefore, in the dependent origination, we can call them either causes or conditions. So it explained, translated into English as depending on ignorance, volitional formations arises. In other places, we can see volitional formations are caused by ignorance. So, in one place it is called condition, another place called cause. That means the word cause and conditions are used synonymously. But some other tradition, later Buddhist traditions, they call cause is one thing, conditions is another. And they even give various similes and examples in so I don't want to go into that kind of traditional teaching, conventions developed other than sutras. My explanation of Kamma solely based on the explanation given in sutras, and therefore I want to stick to that. And then I gave the definition, I gave the 5 conditions, 5 laws. Kamma is one of them. And Kamma also is not fatalism. It is it is a factor that come to fruition, bearing results, and also not just mere physical thing like cause and effect, but it involves our thought. Without our thought, we cannot make a Kamma. So, there are many unwholesome karma. I also want to mention two other terms before my time is over. In Pali traditions, we use two words, kusala and punya. We call punya kamma and kusala kamma. Kusala, akusala. Punya, apunya. And these two terms also I must explain. Punya kamma is the karmas that makes us happy and that keeps accumulating good results to enjoy in samsaric life. And also they call punya abhisaṅkhāra, apunya abhisaṅkhāra. Abhisaṅkhāra means collection. We collect wholesomeness and unwholesomeness, or wholesome karmas and unwholesome karma. We collect. Saṅkhāra, collecting, preparing, and so forth. We are doing that. For what? Punya abhisaṅkhāra, apunya abhisaṅkhāra, both we collect. And also we collect anenya abhisaṅkhāra. They are karmas. Anenya abhisaṅkhāra is a karma. Punya abhisaṅkhāra karma, apunya abhisaṅkhāra karma. Wholesome activities karma, unwholesome activities karma, imperturbable activities are karma, because they all have underlying tendency of greed and ignorance. Greed and ignorance. Therefore, they bring us to, they will cause our rebirth. That will continue again and again. That a person will continue in samsara, repeating, taking birth and rebirth and so on. And that's called samsara. That is the nature of punya. Punya. Kusala or akusala has a very powerful factor. Kusala is the quality controller of punya. Quality control of punya, meaning when you do something wholesome, punya, if greed arises, kusala intervenes and remove the greed from your mind. When anger arises, when you are doing punya, ping, wholesome deeds, kusala interfere and remove that anger. When confusion arises, when you do something wholesome, kusala intervenes and removes that confusion. So, kusala, this way, removing our greed, hatred and delusion while doing wholesome things. They can happen. Then kusala intervenes and remove them, making our samsaric journey short. In other words, kusala is the one that brings us to liberation from suffering. Punya is the one that that makes us linger in samsara for long period of time, having same kind of suffering caused by various things. And therefore suffering will not end when we commit punya, but suffering will end when we commit kusala. See the difference between these two. Kusala ends samsara, punya prolongs samsara. And apunya, akusala, of course, apunya is the factor that brings us pain and suffering more than punya. And be born in woeful states of existence. And akusala also support apunya to prolong in our suffering state, woeful state, painful state. But only kusala will take us to end of samsara, end of suffering. So, uh, so that is the difference between kusala kamma and punya kamma. Now we go through the list of uh, akusala and kusala. Maybe we start tomorrow these two lists and see each of them is uh, is is working in our daily life. So with this, I want to end this morning session. And friends, once again, with very earnest wish, with very pure and clean intention, with the power that we developed, cultivated in our mind, this very moment, practicing metta, practicing mindfulness, and cleansing our mind, we build up great power, strength. These are called uh, Indriya, Bala, even Bojjhanga, the faculties, strength, and factors of enlightenment all come together when we practice meditation. So with this power, we want to wish all those who are suffering and all those who have lost their loved ones, all of those who are in pain, fear, and sorrow, lamentation, grief, and so on, and all those who are helping them to recover from various states of suffering. In various ways, there's help, and those who make decision to reduce their, to do something to reduce their suffering, and those who are working hard to find some vaccine, and those doctors, nurses, and so forth. There are so many wonderful individuals who are working hard day and night, even at the risk of their own life. I hear from here and there that even some doctors, some leaders who are who are trying to help these people, while they are trying to help them, they themselves got this virus, and some of them are in serious conditions. We want to wish all of them to be free from this virus, this pandemic, and return to their normal health and live long in good health and enjoy their peace and happiness. With this, friends, I want to conclude this morning's sessions and see you tomorrow morning.